The Knicks have now won 7 consecutive games. Jalen Brunson recorded 32 points on 11 of 19 shooting, including 15 points in the fourth quarter alone, alongside 7 assists. For New Orleans, a team sitting at 25 wins and 47 losses, 11th in the Western Conference and outside of play-in contention, this result reflected a performance that was more competitive than the win-loss record would suggest going into the night. New York built a substantial lead early, 42-28 after one quarter. However, the Pelicans outscored the Knicks across the second and third periods, and by the time the fourth quarter reached the 7-minute and 25-second mark, New Orleans had reduced the deficit to 3 points. The lead that had been 14 at the end of the first quarter was down to a margin that required a response from the home side. That response came through Brunson and a late-game structural adjustment from head coach Mike Brown. With OG Anunoby deployed as a small ball center, alongside Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and Jordan Clarkson, the Pelicans were held in the closing minutes. A foul on Brunson with just over a minute remaining, followed by a technical foul conceded by New Orleans, produced a sequence that extended New York's lead to 118-111. The game did not return to a one-possession margin from that point. On the individual side, Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns each finished with 21 points. Mikal Bridges recorded 14, his second consecutive game in double figures after a stretch between March 4th and the weekend in which he had not exceeded 11 points in a single outing. Mitchell Robinson contributed 11 points and 8 rebounds across 21 minutes before leaving to a response from the crowd. For New Orleans, Zion Williamson led with 22 points. Saddiq Bey added 18. Trey Murphy III connected from 3 with 15.6 seconds remaining to bring the margin back to 3, but the Pelicans were unable to complete a final possession that could have altered the result. From a standings perspective, this result pushes the Knicks to 7 wins in a row. A Celtics defeat on Wednesday would hand New York sole possession of the Eastern Conference's second seed, which provides home court advantage through the first 2 rounds of the postseason. The quality of opposition across the streak is worth noting. Of the 7 wins, 6 came against teams with records above .500 or with playoff positioning relevance. The defeats of Utah by 17, Indiana by 8, Indiana again by 26, and Washington by 32 were largely controlled results. The wins over Golden State, Brooklyn by 1, and now New Orleans by 5 were narrower. The streak is real by the numbers, though the margins in 3 of those 7 games were single digits or fewer. 7 of New York's 9 remaining regular season opponents are either competing for play-in positioning or fighting for playoff seeding in their respective conferences. That schedule, which includes Charlotte twice, Atlanta, Oklahoma City, Houston, Boston, and Toronto, will provide a clearer picture of where this team sits relative to the genuine postseason contenders before the bracket is set. For New Orleans, the result has limited bearing on their playoff situation, which is effectively resolved. The Pelicans' performance, holding the Knicks within 3 in the fourth quarter, does reflect where some of the individual talent on that roster stands heading into the off-season evaluation period. 7 consecutive wins, a fourth quarter scare navigated, a second seed within reach pending Wednesday's results elsewhere. The Knicks close out the regular season against opponents that will test the validity of this run. Beginning with Charlotte, a team that has won 12 of its last 15, next up is not a straightforward fixture. How New York responds to that step up in competition will be the more informative data point than the streak itself.